Your Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, we're back here on a Wednesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Today's episode is brought to you by Primal Origin Oils. Got beard, get primal. Stop the itch and make your beard look healthy and groomed just like mine. You can check out primaloriginoils.com to learn more about their full line of beard care products. Use the code Locked On for a 20% off discount at checkout. So, obviously, we have a special guest for today's episode. He's been on the podcast plenty of times. I go on his show a lot of times as well. It's kind of like a home and home thing that we do at this point. Different setup here. I noticed that the light in my room before I move in a few days is total crap. So we're going to be down here with the jerseys. He also has his jerseys as well. This will not be my background starting on Saturday when I move down to Richmond. But Doug Glattke of the Forechecking TV joins us here. Doug, how have you been, man?
I've been good, Hunter. How you been doing, buddy?
Not bad. You know, it's definitely a bit of a transition doing video as well. Obviously, everyone can still listen to it on Apple and Spotify if they choose, or that they can watch my lovely voice talk in live action. It's just really great to grow the podcast now on another platform, which is just, it makes it so much worth it. But we have a pretty packed show today. We're going to start off with the Jake Guentzel news. We're also going to get your thoughts on how the team has been playing, talk about those jerseys that are going to be making a debut this weekend that we both were kind of first on with the scoop. I don't really know who else was reporting it, but I didn't really see it out there too much. Go over some players who should replace Guentzel on the top line and a couple of other things as well in the last segment. So first off, Doug, the big news today, because of course, the Penguins fans the last couple of years, we can't have nice things, right? Jake Guentzel is now week to week with an upper body injury. I went back a little bit and watched a few replays of the game. He ended up leaving the ice for a little bit due to blocking a shot with his right wrist / hand. So reading between the lines, he even came back after that and scored 2 goals. So he might have scored 2 goals on either A, sprained wrist, or B, a broken hand / wrist. So that's probably why he's week to week. There's no official injury, but I'm reading between the lines with that. Doug, this is just a tremendous loss for the Penguins. He has 15 goals this year. He scored on 7 of his last 14 shots. He's averaging 0.4 goals per game at this point. There's only 5 to 6 other players ahead of him in terms of the goal race / rocket race. Just how big of a deal is this for the Penguins?
It's massive. I don't want to say that it's devastating, but with where the team was trending, it's pretty devastating. And honestly, dude, you have to feel bad for Jake, because this is the second time in his career where he really looks like he's starting to turn a corner and become that household name, nationally known superstar that all of us in Pittsburgh know that he is, but he ends up getting a longer term injury, and it sucks because we were talking about the lines, how everything was starting to come together, the fact that he was on pace to score 50 goals, everything was starting to come together. And, just like you say, man, we can't have nice things, and this team can never be healthy. So it's very unfortunate for the Penguins and extremely unfortunate for Jake himself.
Yeah, I mean, because he was having, there were takes I talked about on Tuesday's episode, the first one on YouTube and everything. There were people saying that this was probably the best hockey they've seen him play throughout his NHL career. You could certainly argue it. I'll get your thoughts on that. The 2016-17 run really comes to mind. But do you think overall this was the best hockey we've seen from Jake for as long as he's been in the league?
On a consistent basis, yes. He just looked so dominant in so many different ways. I feel like he was seeing the ice very well, and he was able to get into certain areas that generate scoring chances that he wouldn't have been able to in his first 2 years in the league. Like especially coming off that 17 run. And I think, there's a case to be made that the best hockey that he ever played was that first round series against the Flyers in 2018 because him and Sid, that was nuts. Like that
Disgusting.
game where he had 4 goals, it was absolutely nasty. And I mean, obviously the Penguins got lucky. This isn't, I mean, it seems like it could be longer term, but you know, it could have been a lot worse, especially looking at the shot block video. It could have been way worse in my opinion. But, you know, I think whenever everything shakes out and he does come back and he's healthy, the recipe's there keeping Evan Rodriguez with him and Sid.
Yeah,
I can't really explain it, but it works very well. And it reminds you of Dom Simone, how Dom Simone used to play up there with them, except for Evan Rodriguez is actually able to finish.
yeah. I mean, it definitely that should be the line moving forward, especially with Rodriguez playing the best hockey of his career. I've said it on the pod so many times, man. If you look at Micah's stuff on Hockey Viz and you just see a blob of red, and every part of the offensive zone except like the right or left boards, where he is just driving offense to an elite degree. I mean, I think the big question at that point is, what do you do with Bryan Rust? Do you move him down with Evgeny Malkin? I mean, he still has not started skating yet. He was kind of stick handling on the ice, but right at the bench area today. So he still doesn't look like he's that close. Evgeny Malkin, he skated today. He actually practiced with the team. No contact jersey. As soon as that comes off and he starts taking contact, it's going to be close. I want to assume Josh keeps talking about it in his articles in The Athletic. I got to assume we're a couple weeks away from Malkin coming back, and they've held enough water where he should be good to go in that regard. But going back to Jake for just a sec, Doug, who do you replace him on that top line with? The lines today that Sullivan ruled out, Evan Rodriguez with Crosby and Kasperi Kapanen was getting that shot. I don't know about that because Cappy has been really bad this year. And, he can talk as much as he wants to the media saying, I want to get this right. I know I'm playing bad. It's going to turn around. But until we see that happen, this is just how it's going to be. Everyone, including myself, is just going to talk about how, awful he's been this year. Do you think he deserves an opportunity on Sid's line to really get going, or do you think that should go to someone else?
It's a difficult situation simply because they put together that Zucker Carter Heinen line, and
Hmm.
it looks really, really good so far. It looks very encouraging, and I don't think that it's something that you would want to break up, because I think we've all come to the realization that Cappy isn't really that good with Jeff Carter. So really, you're running out of options, and it's like, as much as I myself would like to see a top line of Dom Simone, Sidney Crosby, and Evan Rodriguez, it's not going to happen, and it probably shouldn't. But you know, I think that the best moving forward is just to keep Kappen in there because the only other thing that I would potentially explore is I'm curious to see what Jason Zucker could do with Crosby and Evan Rodriguez. It seems like a line combination that could work. And it seems like something that could potentially activate Zucker and get him going in the offense again, at least from a goal scoring perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and Zucker and Crosby do have pretty decent chemistry when they play together. Their underlying numbers are also really good. I go back to the article that Danny wrote, where he argued that Zucker should be on that top line and Jake should be on Gino's line, just because they both work really well with those respective players. So I wouldn't mind that either. Another one, Doug, what if they put Danton Heinen up there? 7 goals already this year. He's already equaled his total from last year in almost 17, 18 fewer games, which is just crazy considering how last year went for him. Would you consider that at some point?
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I mean, you know that I've been a major proprietor for
Yeah.
playing Danton Heinen in the top six. I think that's a line combination that could work. And you got to keep in mind, I feel like Heinen and Rodriguez have a little bit of chemistry already because of how much Rodriguez was playing second line center early on in the year when Heinen had to play up in the top six a little bit due to injuries and COVID outbreaks and things of that nature. And I'm just gonna pose this question to you. I'm not sure how possible it is just given the roster structure and where he is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate to see Drew O'Connor get a run up there with Sid just for a time, like just to see what he could do. Because I mean, at that point, you're not messing with any other line. Like why not just mess with Sid's line a little bit to keep everything together that's been working so well as of late.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Sully will do that. I just don't. He doesn't seem like the coach that would give him that opportunity. I think he's probably more fine in a bottom six role, at least in my opinion. But it would be something if he was up there. I know the team probably wants to get him going a little bit because one, he hasn't played a lot, and two, when he has played, his offense has kind of cratered down a little bit. But I still think he's probably going to be in that bottom six. But still, man, just a really big loss for Pittsburgh, especially with how elite he was lately and how he was kind of putting the team on his back a little bit with all the goals that he had been scoring. He was putting up a Rocket Richard, such a mini kind of Hart Trophy season. I know there's so many better candidates ahead of Jake right now in terms of the Hart, but he was playing like one of the best players in hockey, that's for sure. Still have a little more to get to for this episode of Locked On Penguins, including a look at the road ahead, how Doug thinks the team has played over these last few games, and yes, they will also be wearing those beautiful jerseys this Saturday. I'll get Doug's thoughts on those. Just again, those things are just sexy as heck. But before we get to that, got beard, get Primal. If you or someone you care about has a beard, it needs to get Primal. Maybe you're that guy who has never considered the benefits of treating your beard with product. Primal Origin oils will stop the itch and make your beard look healthy and groomed. Their goal is to help others look good and live healthier lives through the use of natural oils. The products are free from harmful synthetic ingredients and with low impact on our planet. Primal Origin Oils makes balms, oils, and whipped butter that are renowned as the best feel and beard products available. This is due to the exotic carrier blend with oils like raspberry seed, rosehip, and chia seed oil. All products are fair trade certified and handcrafted in the United States. The combo kits make a great holiday gift, and if you're shopping for yourself, you will be glad you did. Most companies focus on fragrance first that leads to a product that does not feel good on the skin. We took a step back and focused on the ingredients first to ensure a product that feels great and still smells fantastic. We know that every company claims to have the best, but Primal Origin Oils challenges you to compare their ingredients and feel and beard to the other companies that you have used. We promise you will see and feel the difference. Remember, the code LOCKEDON gets you 20% off at primaloriginoils.com. That's primaloriginoils.com with the code LOCKEDON at checkout for 20% off. Now, this holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar, Built Bar. It's filled with many delicious holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate as well. But they're also amazingly low in calories, sugars, net carbs, and fat. You get the best of both worlds. They're delicious and they are healthy. There's many delicious flavors with cookies and cream or peanut butter brownie. Those are two of my favorite flavors. Raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel that you need to bust down those mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers. So throw one in your jacket or purse. You never know when you're going to need it. It's the season of peace. Don't bring up your favorite Built Bar flavors at family parties, please. That would be really, really bad because everyone is so passionate about their favorite flavor. Well, if you're friends with Santa, you can tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in those stockings as well. You can go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay, Doug. So let's just get into how the overall team has looked here. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10 games, 6-1-1 in their last 8, 13 out of 16 points those last 8 games. They have Washington coming up in a really big game. The Capitals are kind of starting to pull away a little bit from the Penguins in the Metro. Even though it is a bit early still, I mean, I guess even though we're over a quarter of a way into the season, just what have been your takeaways through these last 10 games, and especially this road trip so far?
My big thing is that I think they're still a playoff team. I feel like early on the season, everybody got scared a little bit, thinking, okay, this might be the year that it happens.
Mhm.
I don't think that's the case. In my opinion, even without Malkin, at times, they've looked like one of the deeper teams that they've had
Yeah.
since at least the two cup runs, maybe even dating farther back, and I mean, although Jake's going to be out for a little bit, Rust is out for a little bit, we're all bracing and gearing up for the return of Evgeny Malkin. I think that once he's back and he's able to get himself settled in, this team can be nasty. Like they, like when I say like putting up 6 goals on Seattle the other night, I think that they could do that consistently to inferior teams and, just straight up demolish teams. And that's going to be what they need to do to hold a playoff spot in the Metropolitan Division, is because they have to beat the bad teams. That's something that I feel like they struggle with time and time again. Sometimes it's hard. Like Tuesday night in February when you're playing the Coyotes, is it easy to get up and get hyped for that game? Not
Yeah.
really, but you develop that killer instinct over time, and I really think that they're in a good spot. They've been playing well. The Seattle game was very encouraging for a lot of reasons. Like I said earlier, I there's a lot of intrigue in the Zucker, Carter, Danton Heinen line, simply because we've been looking for what could be a killer third line whenever Malkin comes back.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt that's the golden ticket. Um, because they're probably going to just use Rust as a top 6 left wing. With how good Rodriguez has been up on the top line, I could see, that's something they did whenever Phil was here for a little bit in that 2018 season. So I could see them trying to run that back and see if they got that magic again.
So Guentzel, Crosby, Rodriguez, Rust, Malkin, Kapanen, Zucker, Carter, Heinen, Aston Reese, Bluger, McGinn is probably what you would run.
Yes, I think that's what they would have to run. And then if things don't work out with, the biggest wild card out of that whole thing is the Rust, Malkin, Kapanen line. Like they have the potential to be world breakers, but it's also tough because you have a guy who's been horrifically inconsistent this year, going and playing with two guys who haven't really played much a better part of 2 years due to injuries, So that's still yet to be seen if that is full. But the other 3 line combinations that we named before, they work. They mesh well together, and there's really not much due cause for either of them to be broken up at this point.
And I would dig it pretty well just because Rodriguez, as you said, has been really good. But if he does struggle, they can move Russ back up and then figure out what to do with Rodriguez. He slots in honestly to any line. So I really don't mind what they do with him. And Josh was talking about this in his article on The Athletic with just because Sullivan has been putting Kapanen on the 4th line, and people have been wondering, like, well, what's the plan with him? And there is a plan. They're going to put him back with Gino, and they're going to see what's going to happen. And if that doesn't work, then they're really up a creek, I think, with him, just because if he's not providing value next to the player that, he played best next to last season, then I really think there's going to be some serious problems. I really do think that. They got a big game coming up, Doug, on Friday. It's nice that they have a few days off. I think the team could really use it. They just played a whole bunch of games in a very few nights. Even though there wasn't a lot of back-to-backs during that stretch, I believe from the 14th, 15th, that weekend of November till the other night, they played I want to say like a span of 10 games in about 3 weeks or something. So it was definitely a pretty busy stretch. It was only one back-to-back for that stretch. So it's nice for them to get a few days off. They're back home in Pittsburgh. They'll go to Washington, and they'll have a lot of home games. But, that game against Washington's not going to be easy. They have 52% of the expected goals this year. They have 61.2% of the actual goals. Their shot attempts are around 51%. If you go to Money Puck, their goals against per 60 is 1.96. Their goals for per 60 is 3.1. So they're one of the best scoring teams in the league. I definitely did not think they would be this good this year. For as much as Penguins fans like to hate on him, I'll say this. Tom Wilson's been pretty good this year. He's actually maybe gone full Matt Cook a little bit and cleaned up his act. And, he's showing that he can actually be a serviceable player like Matt Cook when he's not being a complete moron on the ice. I'll get your thoughts on this here in a second, by the way. I saw some Elliot Friedman, Tom Wilson for Team Canada takes today. And I was like, okay. But just how big of a game do you think this is for Pittsburgh to potentially send a message saying like, okay, we're playing better hockey now. You're not running away with the division just yet.
I mean, I think it's a very important game. It's always important whenever the Pens and Caps get together. But one would think, they're probably going to start Tristan Jarry. It only makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one hell of a start for him. If he can come into Washington, play a good game, and stay solid for 60 minutes, that's a big thing for where he once was, And I mean, like, I feel like for a lot of this year, I bet the biggest storyline has been Tristan Jarry's growth and maturity throughout everything, because he went from the lowest point in his career to really just going on an absolute freaking heater. He's been fantastic for the entire season. He's probably been their most valuable player up until this point. And, just to talk about this team, Tom Wilson for Team Canada stuff real quick, it's not the worst idea. I mean, the amount of random guys I've seen people throw at Team Canada is insane. Like, I've seen people talk about Andrew Mangiapane, Drake Batherson. It's like, dude, like, it's crazy. It's crazy some of the stuff I've seen.
Drake Batherson? What?
Dude, Drake Batherson's been unreal to start the year in Ottawa. Like, he's been sick.
But
I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's worth putting him on the fourth line. I mean, and like you and I have said before, that country is so loaded that they could have their entire forward core consist of centermen, and they would steamroll every single person they play.
This is probably the best
without doubt
roster we will see of our lifetime, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's also a case to be made that this could potentially be the best Team USA roster we see in our lives.
Well, they selected Seth Jones, so let's see if the decision makers, the new ones, actually know what they're doing there. But yeah, I had to pick your brain with that Tom Wilson thing. I saw it earlier. Elliot Freeman was talking about it on the Jeff Merrick show. Overall, I mean, Ovechkin's on a freaking heater this year. Overall with him, I know some Penguins fans still hate him. I think people got to put the past in the past. I mean, it's him and Sid as the two best players of this generation. Seeing what he's doing this year is nothing short of incredible, considering he's in his late 30s at this point. I know Sid has started to heat up, but you're not going to get any negative OV slander from me. Like, you'll see some weird folks in the DC media give weird Crosby slander because A, they don't know what they're talking about, and B, they know nothing about hockey. And that's not for the people that I know. This is like the high up media that writes for the Post and all these other people. I think that I saw some weird takes like a couple weeks ago where it was just like, okay, don't really know what some of these Caps media are talking about. But he's awesome. He's on a tear. He probably will win the Rocket this year. TJ Oshie is somehow defying time with that contract that he has. They still don't have Backstrom back, if I'm not mistaken. John Carlson's playing well. They have a pretty deep team with all the kids that they have in the line, but they've been battling a lot of injuries as well. So the fact that they're in first place, definitely something that I didn't see coming this year. That's for sure, Doug. But That'll do it for this second segment of the show. Coming up in the last segment, we're going to go over that third jersey that's going to debut this weekend and who Doug is probably going to get and what he thinks overall of that jersey. But first off, though, BetOnline has you covered for all the seasons, and that means more props, odds, and lines than ever before, especially as the NFL season continues to the march to the playoffs in just about a month. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season, from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast, the second one that will be going on YouTube later tonight. And of course, it'll be on Apple and Spotify. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins and follow my Twitter at Hunter Hodes. So, Doug, I said it about last week. I had a couple people in my DM saying you were right. I said, yeah, probably about a few days late, but it seems like, the little birdie that we have definitely came through, and those jerseys are sweet, and they're going to make their debut this Saturday against the Anaheim Ducks. I believe they go on sale at midnight on Saturday to be purchased from pensgear.com as well, and I'm sure they will be pretty pricey once they go on that website. Doug, overall, what are your thoughts on it, and do you think it was right to include a different logo on the shoulder patch?
Honestly, man, this is probably the best jersey that they've come out with since the baby blue jerseys they did for the 2008 Winter Classic. That's just my opinion. I'm okay with the shoulders. I know everybody's been harping on the shoulder patches, but on a black jersey, it works. You're able to pull it off, in my opinion. I was such a big fan of the white diagonal they did last year, but this black one is just absolutely unbelievable. So I'm really, really excited to get my hands on one of these. I'll be in the city Saturday for the game, and we're going to basically just go directly into the team store and see what they got.
I will be refreshing my website at midnight on Saturday. That's for sure. Pens Gear. I will be looking to see how much the prices are. It's just the jersey's so beautiful. I want Snoop Dogg to make an appearance with it, please. If they can just do that for old time's sake. I know he's a bit older now than he was back in back in the 90s, but we need it to happen. I think that would be awesome. And, it's great that they're going to be wearing that, not just for this year, Doug, but for the next few seasons as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they say, hey, we're going to wear these in the playoffs like they did their third jerseys last year. I know those jerseys weren't that good, but I could totally see that happening. And you know what? Sign me up for that. I'll say this as well. The naysayers that always say, well, it's a diagonal, just a rip-off Rangers jersey. These people are a bunch of frauds, I think.
Yeah, there's something about the way Pittsburgh does it that's super nice. Now I do agree. I'm not big on ripping off the diagonal word mark as much for other teams. I don't like Tampa Bay Stadium Series jerseys. I don't like the Hurricanes white Canes jersey that they have.
Pause. How about those Nashville jerseys?
Those jerseys are, honest to God, the worst jerseys I've ever seen in my entire life. The fact that those even got approved is just phenomenal to me. Just absolutely insane.
Yeah. I can't believe it either. Those things stink. I don't know who was in their marketing team, their design team that said, hey, let's have this one be our jersey. But I'm just excited, man. It's finally a jersey that a lot of people have been wanting to come back for some time now. And at some point, now that Mario is the very minority owner, starting this weekend when the NHL Board of Governors approves that sale, he won't have to say on the Robo Penguin anymore.
The Robo Penguin is back on, baby.
The Robo Penguin needs to come back. That jersey that I tweeted out a few months ago, you can find that tweet, and I can probably show that on the show on here at some point. This photoshopped one with Sid. It is just it's gorgeous.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's unreal. But it's exciting that they're keeping him for at least I saw like at least the next 3 seasons, like you said, which means I don't have to rush to get a Sid jersey right away.
Do you know who
I
you're
can
going to
get
get?
adventurous with it. Well, I am currently stuck between Jeff Carter and Jari.
Okay. Okay.
So
I'm leaning,
I
I'm leaning Jake Guentzel right now, to be honest.
yeah, that's a good one. Definitely a good one. I think, I don't have a Carter jersey yet, and like, all of us love Jeff Carter, so that might have to be something that comes to fruition this weekend. But we'll see. I mean, for me, it's all going to depend on what they have left whenever I get to the game, because
Yeah.
they're gonna sell quick, and they're going on sale at 10 a.m. at the team store. So
Oh,
it's going to be interesting.
yeah. That should be something. I can't wait to see what the lines look like out for that one. But Doug, I think that might do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I thank all of you for listening and watching this episode. We'll have another one tomorrow, and then of course on Friday before the game against Washington. Doug, plug in your social media info and where everyone can find your podcast as well.
All right, guys. So follow me on Twitter at Doug_Glattke. I also do a hockey podcast as well called Forechecking TV. Be sure to follow it on Twitter at Forechecking TV. And when you go there, you'll be able to find our YouTube, our Spotify, our Apple Podcast stuff, and all that on our Twitter once again at Forechecking TV.
Yeah, they do a great show over there. So definitely go subscribe to their channel. And if you don't, you watch it on YouTube, you go subscribe to their podcast on Apple and Spotify. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your Wednesday. And we will be back on Thursday and Friday with another episode for the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'll talk to you all then.